Yo guys, what is good? This is Anthony from Avant Samples, and we are back with another dubstep tutorial for you all today. This time we're stoked to have the legend himself, Dack Janiels, be taking you through his process of writing a dubstep drop in his signature Riddim style using his Dubstep Essentials sample pack. The Dack Janiels Dubstep Essentials sample pack is available on our website to download. If you guys want to grab it and follow along with today's tutorial, the link will be at the top of the description below. So let's go ahead and hop over to Dack Janiels' perspective and get the tutorial started. Hope you guys enjoy it.
Yo, what's up guys? This is Dack Janiels. Today I'm just going to be showing you a brief overview of my brand new Dubstep Essentials pack with Avant samples. And we're just going to be going over how easy it is to set up the skeleton, idea, basic flow, whatever you want to call it for your next dubstep hit. So let's get right into it. So first things first, we're going to be picking out a kick. All the kicks that come in here are pre-keyed. I kept them in the keys that I mostly use, but it's totally up to you. Now, I think we're going to be writing in D sharp today, but I'm going to throw in this E one just because it's got a nice little punch to it. And then we're going to be throwing in a clap. We can always go and throw up, the pitch on the kick by a semitone or two later. It shouldn't fuck with the transient too much. Now we got our clap in here. Basic, classic, dubstep, rhythm-y thing. We're going to be throwing on our ride right here just to keep up the flow. I normally always do this just so I have something to write to. We can always change up the percussion later too, in my eyes. Now we're gonna be going to our hi-hat. And for now, we're just gonna have this match up with our ride. Again, we could add in little flutters or something later, but this is mainly just to keep the rhythm. Now these come pre-EQ'd, but I'm gonna cut them even up a little bit higher. I do this sometimes when I'm just to help myself with my mix downs. Just because sometimes with the harsh basses we use in dubstep, I have stuff that sits more on the high end, and I really want to carve out my own space for the hats. So now let's get straight into the bass one-shots. Today I'm going to be going with the metallic wonks and chunks from this pack. But there's a lot of good options in there. Normally, in all honesty, I work out of MIDI and then bounce out, but I find that sometimes coming up with ideas just in straight audio, I can come up with a flow and then I can go swap these sounds out and match tone later on. So really, for the sake of time, let's just do a back and forth. 1-4. Do a little bit of a transposition automation on the clip. And then we got a nice little back and forth flow going there. Now, next thing up, we're gonna be going to our Ableton racks. And this DAC bass rack is pretty much the same exact thing I use on my tracks. I just drag and drop. I did use some Ableton stock effects rather than like Fab Filter or different saturation. But I made it as close to the original thing as possible while still making it accessible in case you didn't have those plugins. Now we're just throwing up the OTT, the drive, and the amp a little bit to add on a little bit of grit to the sound. I'm going to be going into my DAC space out here. And I'm going to go and adjust my decay time on the reverb just to give us a slight airiness. And that gives a little bit of delay as well on the space out. And now we're going to go to our bass morpher, which is essentially just a tonal delay. And I'm doing this just to add on that metallic texture that I want. You're able to modulate all these settings on here. So you can definitely get in there. You can do automation movements on there, change the pitch and change the frequency shift on a little bit. Now we got this basic idea, so I'm going to go through and add on another bass just to vary the rhythm a little bit. Go through to the clip again. I do a ton of these transposition movements here. Just adds a lot more character to the basses rather than having them hit in a flat key. Now we're going to copy that over again. Let's go through and add our sub. So I added a bunch of different sub hit options in here. A lot of these are pre-distorted already, which is nice. You can kind of just drop them in there without having to do all too much to them. This one's sounding good. Now for this particular song, I'm going to be treating my sub more like an 808, so it's not going to be following the basses to a T. And I like having that contrast on subs sometimes, especially with this style of super distorted, wonky dubstep. Having a sub that kind of is like a contrast to the main lead is nice. And I think kind of gives it more of a hip-hop-y type feel versus being a little bit faster when the sub is going at a faster rate. Now, I'm going to go through here and I'm going to throw on our saturator as well, just to give a little bit more boost. About 2 dB should be good. And now I'm going to stage out the volumes on these a little bit to match. Starting to get something here. And again, this is really just an idea and for the sake of time showing you how quickly you can kind of get these ideas out there. I know with dubstep in particular, a lot of people are really intimidated, whether it's sound design. But like I said, it's nice because then we could go back and start to swap out any of these sounds for something in a similar tone and timbre. Now I'm just going through with a group, sidechain compression on the kick and the clap. You can hear it ducking out, and that's just adding in a little bit more space for our kick and clap in the mix for room. I also have my sub hit cutting at the end to give us a little bit of a turnaround. Mess with this bass morpher, it wasn't sounding quite right. Start to get some crazy flanger type sounds. A lot of the time it's just trial and error, even if you've been making dubstep for years and years. Cool, now we're starting to get something. Let's go to a chant. Now, I recorded these all just in my studio, and I actually do this all the time on my regular tracks. I just record something, maybe even to my phone in the car, and then take it into the mix down later on the track, or into the mix, and add it in for a little bit of a offbeat flair. Now, this wasn't sounding quite right, so let's play around with this a little bit more. I think we can come up with something a little bit more flowy. Let's fuck with this one now. Cool. Double movement in there. Let's actually copy this over. It's a lot more flowy. I'm liking that a lot more. Now let's go through here and add a little turnaround vocal. Easy. Now something I do a lot of the time on my vocals is I actually process them very similar to my basses. And I do this especially when the vocal's contained on the turnaround of a drop, because the basses are so processed and have so much grit and distortion that a vocal can sound a little bit out of the ordinary or out of place just because it's so clean. So I like to take the bass rack sometimes, use that to process it, and then the basses and the vocals have a similar processing and they're inherently going to sound a little bit more cohesive. Now, I'm going to jump into a Serum tutorial for my next video with Avant, but I did want to just throw in some sort of long bass here. This is probably the highest frequency request that I get from people, and I'm just really making a super basic one here just to fill out some of that space. So we're taking a basic wave right here. We're going to be throwing on a bandpass notch filter, kind of get that nice tone we're looking for. Playing around with the width on it. Sometimes I like to leave my basses mono and then have my long bass stereo, or vice versa. But for this, I think we're just going to go mono. Throw on a little bit of that multiband boost. Let's go back into here and FM this thing. So we're just sending in an FM right here. Boom. Play around with our octave pitch. Throw on the sync. Way too loud. Okay, here we go. Perfect. Let's copy that back over. Take out our sub hit to create that fake out. Now we can go into our space and let's do a little bit of a gated automation here. the nice thing about this space out is it's versatile, and like the intros, if you want to throw it on like a kick or snare rising line or even a riser, and then also in the basses you can use it to create like a gated delay. Now right here we're going to be throwing in a reverse cymbal. I'm just using one of my rides, and this is something that I use all over my production just to create space, tension, and atmosphere. I think really tension's the key word here because it's giving those little rise flows that help keep you interested in the song, keep you wanting more. See what else we can do here. Let's go to our effects. Now it depends on the song. Sometimes I like to fill out my entire background with percussion only and hats, but sometimes it's also nice using some of these noise downs to kind of maintain some sort of little atmosphere air in the background. I'm just going to cut it out on the fake out so it gives a little bit more of a change when it finally does hit. Throw in a little automation on this chorus vibrato. This is actually going to make this sound get a little bit more growly, which I like. It kind of varies up those sounds from being too metallic and high-endy. Let's take out these hats for the fake out. Now we got our basic idea and our basic flow. From this point, I'd probably go in to another instance of Serum or even another bass one shot and kind of start playing around with different options. But now that I have the pitch bend and the repeating flow for that top layer, it's going to be pretty easy for me to go and match sounds with that and kind of get something that's going to match perfectly tonally. There's a lot of stuff, for the sake of time that, isn't exact here, and I wanted to use as much Ableton stock stuff for you guys just in case we have someone more novice who's coming in and is using this pack as a starting point. I hope you guys were able to learn something or see, at the end of the day, I want music production to be accessible for everyone, and I think a lot of the time, it's really intimidating jumping in, especially to a new genre. So I really just want to show you guys the process that I take. I do this process almost every time I write a song, starting with my kick, clap, hats, going down to the processing and stuff. You guys are really seeing a lot of my tools that I use in my tracks in this pack. A lot of the hat loops and stuff like that were ones that I just straight bounced out from songs of mine, intros for the effects, whatever. So I really just wanted this to be as useful as possible, and I didn't want to put any filler samples in here, stuff that I wouldn't personally use. So hopefully you guys were able to pick something up today. Big shout out to Avant Samples. They're doing a wonderful thing, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Switch.